Alright guys, so I got a whole bunch of parts that I need to put on the CJ. I'm going to be kind of upgrading the front axle. I'm going to do chromoly axle shafts. I'm going to do wheel bearings. I'm going to do new diff fluid. I'm going to put a lube blocker gasket in. And I'm going to put on new Superwinch hubs. So it's going to be a fairly big project. It'll probably take a couple hours. I guess the first thing on the agenda is I'm going to have to take the tires off and get this thing up on some axle stands. So we'll start there. Alright, I'm going to lift it up a little bit. I have the e-brake on, and I also put some wheel chocks under the back so it can't move while I'm doing this. I'm going to use an impact wrench to get off my tires, so I'm going to just put it on jack stands right away. But if you don't have an impact wrench, loosen up your lug nuts before you lift it up, or else it'll be really hard. Alright, so before I get it totally on jack stands, I kind of forgot I got wheel locks, and I don't use an impact on those. So I'm going to break the wheel locks loose first. I just use a breaker bar to do that. Alright, now that that's loose, I'm going to get it up on jack stand. Alright, so now I got it on jack stands on the axle here, and it's nice and secure. It won't fall on me when I'm working underneath it. So now I'm going to get these tires off. Alright, so I'm going to take this tire off. I'll just show you the impact. My car's right here. It's kind of a tight space to work, but it's raining pretty hard outside, so I just really didn't have the motivation to move my car out. So I'm just using this earthquake. I think it does like 700 foot-pounds max or something. I've had it for like 2-3 years now, and it's been pretty good by me. So with the Matic tools, it's as easy as that. Alright, so when you get your tires off, now's a good time. As always, check your pads, make sure you got pads left. I mean, you don't want to go through all this work and then you have to do a brake job in like a month, but mine look good. And I inspect my my extended brake lines here, make sure there's no cracked or nothing wrong with them, and they look good on both sides. So I'm ready to proceed to the next step. What I'm going to do is, you could start disassembling some stuff here, but either way, at the end, you're still going to have to drain your diff fluid. So I'm going to just drain it right now and get it done. Alright, one tip I got for you right before we drain this diff fluid is pretty much on any vehicle, but a Jeep especially, you want to make sure you can get your fill plug out first before you drain everything, because if you take this all apart and then you can't get that out, you're screwed. So it's a good idea to even loosen it before. Makes it a lot easier. So as you can see, mine is on there pretty tight. Alright, starting to move. Alright, so now I got it moving by hand. Now I can take all this stuff off, and then I know later on I can actually refill it with some diff fluid. Alright, so I'm getting a few of them out. Always you want to leave one up here, kind of in there, so this whole thing doesn't fall off. What we're going for, so we're going to take off all the bolts, and then I'm going to pop it loose down here, and then it'll drain while this still kind of stays attached. I'm just using an air ratchet. I see a lot of people on like YouTube and stuff misuse air ratchets. You can go ahead and get an air ratchet just like a normal ratchet to break stuff loose. So it's on there pretty good. Alright, so you break it loose, and once you break it loose, then you can just zip it off. Just like that. So, alright, so I'm going to take everything out except for that one top bolt that I showed you. Alright, so this is the last bolt on the bottom. I'm going to fire it out and then it'll start draining. Alright, so I got it draining here. I think I got a lube blocker in this one if I remember right. I already put one in here a while back. And I definitely recommend the lube blockers. They're pretty pricey for a gasket, but I usually get about 4 uses out of them. And it makes life so much easier. You don't have to scrape off all the RTV and all that crap. So since I have this bolt loose in the top, what I can do is go ahead and loosen it up a little bit more. I don't want to take it all the way out, but I'll just wrench it off a little looser. And then it's pretty easy to just drain the oil now. See? I can drain it and this piece doesn't fall off on me. So yeah, I do have a lube blocker back there, you can see it. Lube blockers are awesome. They make life so easy. When I reinstall this, all I'm going to do is throw in my new lube blocker, and I've used this one 4 times already, and it's not leaking, but since I'm doing this full rebuild, I figured now's as good time as any just to replace it with a new one now. So, alright, so the majority of that oil is out of there now, so now I can take off the remaining bolt here, and when I get the remaining bolt off, this whole thing will come down. And there'll still be a little bit of fluid in there, but it's not nearly as messy. So, alright, so I took out the last one there. I'm going to just kind of flip this into my hand, and then there goes the gasket, and you can see it's clean and ready to pretty much put on the new one right away. Alright, so now I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to, one, inspect my gears, just make sure there's no metal down in there or anything broken. These gears are pretty much brand new. They probably have maybe like 2,000 miles on them. I re-geared it to 373s. I'm running 33-inch tires, but I have a 3-speed automatic transmission, so I do like to travel in it, and 373s were decent compromise to keep it to where I can drive on the freeway. In the future, once I get some of this work done, I'm probably going to go into my transfer case. I got a Dana 300, and I'm probably going to put one of the 4-to-1 low range conversions. Terraflex makes a kit, and I can't remember the other kit, but there's another kit, and I'll probably research them more when I get there and rip my transfer case down and put a 4-to-1 in it, and that'll fix me up fine for off-road, and then I can still keep my highway drivability. But anyways, so I'm gonna go inside here with some paper towels, and I'm gonna wipe it all out, get all the fluid out that I can, and then I'm going to clean up the back side of my diff cover, get all the oil out of that, and then I'm gonna just set it aside because I gotta leave it open so I can see what I'm doing when I get to the axle shaft part. Alright guys, so it's another day. I'm just kind of doing this, you know, half hour here, an hour there after work, and hopefully I'll get it all done by the end of the weekend. So today I'm going to start by taking off the brake caliper. I got to get that out of our way so that we can start taking all this the rotors and stuff out of the way, and the hubs. I actually got my new Superwinch hubs today, which is awesome because I didn't know when they were coming in, and I already started this project, so I pretty much needed them, so I'm glad they showed up. So to take this off, what you're going to need is a Allen, a 7mm. And then if you go back here, there'll be these two Allens right there. So when I take those off, I already have this bungee cord up here ready, so I have something I can hook it onto and let my caliper hang, and that way I take the weight off my brake line. So I'm going to take those two out right now. Alright, so I got these two little sliders out, and I got some caliper lube. When I put those back in, I'll put a little of that on there. Keeps everything moving the way it should. So I'm going to pop this caliper off, and I'm going to hang it. So as you can see, I got that hanging on this bungee, and then there's no strain on my brake line. So next I'm going to start dismantling the hub. So to do that, it's just these bolts around here. On my Jeep, on my model year, there's only 5, but earlier model years, I believe they had 6. Alright, so these 5 bolts turned out to be a 14 millimeter, and now when I try to turn it, my whole brake moves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a little pry bar, and I'm going to just kind of wedge it into my brake there, and that'll allow me to loosen these up without this moving. Alright, so this is the last bolt right here. All the bolts I took out are really dirty, so they're going to get a little bath and some acetone to clean them up a bit, and then I'll put them back on there with probably a little bit of blue thread locker. So there's the last one, and that pops off the top of your hub. Mine, I guess, kind of looks somewhat okay, but it's definitely old and worn, so it's definitely got some issues, so I'm glad I got some new ones. Alright, so next, to get this piece off right here, if you look real close, there's a little snap ring right there. So you just got to grab that with some snap ring pliers, and it comes off like so. Once you get that off, then you can slide this rest of your, I guess that's the rest of your hub assembly. So then that all comes off. Now we gotta take this nut off, and that's a pretty big size right there. I'm gonna have to look around and see what I got. I think that's like a 36 though, but I'm gonna check and see.